All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday, a weekend. Welcome to another episode, another sessions of Composer with Coffee, or Coffee with Composers. And I am actually drinking coffee. Yes, yes. Anybody else drinking coffee? Cheers. Okay, today we have four composers. We have Greg, we have Ayako, we have Devin, and Jaze. And without further ado, Greg, take it over. Round of applause.
Hey, I'm Greg. Thanks for having me. I'm having a really good time this week, and I'm looking forward to next week and hearing everybody's music and like thoughts about composing and music making has been like really fun and interesting. I'm also this week and next week am also teaching composition at the Boston Conservatory, so I feel like a little overloaded on composition, and I kind of love it. So uh, yeah, I'm having a good time, and thanks for all the positive energy. Um, I thought today I have three pieces, like clips of pieces, because they're all fairly long, that I wanted to show, and we can talk about them. But maybe first I'll just kind of talk about like my background and how I ended up, uh, I guess, like doing the kind of stuff I'm doing now. So my background initially, I started as a percussionist when I was maybe like 9 or 10. Um, and did like the kind of like the whole school band route, but also at some point decided that I desperately wanted to be in a band, and started my first band when I was 13. And kind of a theme that is going to come up in some of my other projects is what I'm also kind of turning you all into guinea pigs because I have to do a much longer version of this presentation next week. So thanks for your help. Um, but kind of a theme for me is like creative problem solving, which is often that there's something that I want to get done or a kind of project I have in mind, but I have no idea how to do it. So a lot of my work is either kind of looking for interesting ways for me to make that happen or forcing people to want to be involved. So kind of like my first real musical project was yeah, my first band when I was 13. None of my friends played instruments. They were just the people that I like spent time with, and um, would like go over their houses with like my CD collection and force them to listen to stuff until I convinced them to buy instruments and start a band with me. And ended up making them go on tour with me. We went on our first tour when I was a sophomore in high school, and we just like went for it, and it was super super fun. Um, and then I ended up studying composition for my undergrad at a place called Hampshire College, which is in Western Mass. It's the no grades, no majors farm school. Um, but they have like a very like strong like free jazz improv scene there. The head of the department used to be in Anthony Braxton's band. Wadada Leo Smith came a couple times to give lectures that were all extremely strange, and I loved every second of it. Um, yeah, and there I got really into storytelling, which kind of becomes like a big theme in my work. And my kind of like, and I'm not going to share it today, but I'll post a link if people want to see it. My kind of like thesis performance was a piece I wrote for a large ensemble with a narrator that was based on the story of the guy who wrote Amazing Grace. And Amazing Grace almost doesn't show up at all in the story because it's like not an interesting part of his life. He was like a marooned slave trader who got rescued by a bounty hunter. He has like an absolutely bizarre story, and his autobiography um, he wrote as like a series of letters to somebody who doesn't exist. Like he just wrote letters about his life and lied about it. He's a really really weird dude. Um, so I wrote about that a lot, and I'll drop the link to that shortly. Yeah, and then I ended up living in Connecticut for a little bit, working as a piano mover, and just like going to a lot of concerts. I ended up writing an opera about my experiences as a piano mover because it went really badly. It ended up with me getting kicked out of a moving truck on the highway and hiking to the next train station. Um, so yeah, I think that's like another thing that comes up in my work is like um, kind of like goofy things happening to me. That's not that goofy, but and trying to turn it into, I guess, art. Um, the version of that I'll post does not have the guy's real name, my boss. But I did do a version where I just took his Facebook profile picture and put it on the score because I thought it was funny. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna show some pieces. So yeah, and then I did my master's at Boston Conservatory. I finished in 2018, and now I work as a composer and a teacher. Um, and I run the Boston New Music Calendar, which lists new music events in the greater Boston area. And I run a small opera company called Strange Trace, which you'll be hearing stuff from today. So I'm going to start with an opera that I wrote last fall called The Missing Piece. Um, so just like some background about it, last February 2020, I decided I wanted to start an opera company. We had all these plans, and about a month into it, COVID happened. Um, so our first kind of like big thing was not to just figure out how do we run an opera company, but how do we make it work in COVID. And the first idea that somebody had was, what if we did an opera that takes place in Zoom? Um, and then I brought up my favorite bad horror movie, which is called Unfriended, where the whole thing takes place in a Skype call, um, where the kind of like the conceit of it is that the killer will kill them if they leave the call. Um, so I thought it would be funny if we kind of did that same thing. So what our librettists came up with was it's six people having a kind of COVID happy hour. They all work for a puzzle company. They weren't expecting things to be so crazy once quarantine happened, so they all need to unwind. And slowly, they all realize that they're singing. They don't know why. Um, they start dying one by one. They can't figure out how to leave the Zoom call. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna show one death scene. Um, at this point, there's only three people left. And yeah, there was also we're gonna see if people can actually hear because it wasn't working earlier. Um, can hold on. I think I'm doing the thing that everybody does every time. Okay, share sound. I did it. Can people hear? Yes. Okay.
Greg, I think we can't hear.
Can people not hear? Did I mess up?
It's working fine for me.
Oh, people can't. It must be issues on my end. I can't. It's an encryption issue. Should I? What do I do? I'm gonna. All good. I'll put the link just in case people can't hear it. Is that fair? Is that cool? Okay. I'm so sorry.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
What shield in the top left corner? Oh, mine has a green check in it. That
Yeah,
shield.
so mine has it's orange and it's has an exclamation point in it, and that, uh, so yeah, the encryption says enabled with one exception, and that's you, Greg. Um,
Uh-oh.
I forget how to fix it, but that's we had this problem in some of my classes, and it's got something to do with that. I don't know how to fix it though. Sorry.
Okay. I am a security threat. That's true. Well, I posted the link, and so if people are unable to hear it, then you have it. This starts at like 27:41 or so. But I'll keep going. I'm so sorry about the issues. Oh no, I don't want to save this. Okay. Yeah, and that's a little bit of that opera. Do you have any like maybe like questions or thoughts? I can talk about how we put that together, or how I made some of those sounds, like whatever. Or I can just show other stuff.
That
Um,
was a oh, sorry.
yeah,
That was a really cool concept. Like when you said like I know the movie Unfriended, so I was thinking about that and then I was kind of thinking like how could that relate? And I was like opera? Like and I was like, okay, all right. Like let's see how this look, but like you really did well. Sorry if you can hear my dog.
no,
Um but like you got the like vibe right in it, I guess. Like, I mean not the vibe of Unfriended. You know what I mean? Like you pulled it together really well. This is awesome.
thank you. Um, yeah, I think one thing we wanted to do is we wanted to justify to people, especially because we knew how we knew that a lot of non-opera folks were going to be watching this, so we wanted to justify to them why there's singing and why there's music. So if you in this scene it's a little dark, but you can see me in one of the screens playing keyboard. Um, and I don't speak until the very end. At the beginning of the opera, they're like, "What's Greg doing?" Just jamming over there. It's eventually revealed that I'm the company's software designer, I guess, and I have inserted a code into their Zoom call that's forcing them to sing and kill themselves, and I'm controlling them with the keyboard. It's like very goofy, but we wanted to kind of justify like why are they singing on the Zoom call? Like this is part of the joke. Opera is like extremely silly. And Phil asked how I made the choices for the instruments. Originally, it was entirely a piano score, a piano vocal score, um, and we had a version that was only piano and voice. But then I started to feel like if there's a kind of this like technology aspect, and since I have this collection of like synthesizers and like combo organs and stuff, I really wanted to kind of utilize all that and put all this into the pot. Um, so I just kind of started like orchestrating from there, and thought about like how would I do this as like if I had like a chamber ensemble, um, and started like assigning low notes to like I have like this farfisa organ that fills out the sound really well when I add a distortion pedal. And it's kind of making some choices from there. I don't have it with me right now, but I also have this pedal. I was talking about this in the Space Pants after their concert, but it's called a white noise bongo, and the yes, yeah. Having never watched TV soap operas, that's definitely like my aesthetic, I think. But the white noise bongo is like this pedal that has these two copper bars on it, and you can tap on it to create white noise, like in rhythm. So like this shows up all over the place. It's really cool. I wanted to show another short opera that's by the same group of people, and we're gonna watch a scene with the same person because he's so good at like flipping out and being just like unhinged. Um, this came out last month. It's called October Surprise. Um, and the idea for this one is that it's like the Home Shopping Network, but every kind of scene is about a different conspiracy theory, and they're trying to sell you something. So it opens with somebody singing about 5G, and he's going to sell you like a box to put your router in to keep you safe. Somebody sings about how to hide from aliens. Somebody sings about a juice cleanse that will get vaccines out of you. Um, it's ultimately revealed that this is all kind of being orchestrated by one person. But the scene we're gonna watch, which features the same person, is all about how to make tinfoil hats. And I'll post the link in the chat in case the sound isn't working. And it starts at 25:47. Oh, I only sent that to Ben. Okay, now everybody has it, not just Ben. 25:47. Yeah, and this yeah, congrats Ben, you were the chosen one. Um, There is there is a commercial. We put commercials in it, and there is one about QAnon that my wife did not think was funny. I thought it was funny. Um, yeah, and the I guess ensemble is my band. So it's I guess a rock opera in a different sense of the word. But here we go. Yeah, and that's my conspiracy theory opera. Thank you. Um, yeah, I only have a couple minutes. Do other people have any questions or thoughts? Thank you, Phil. Um, and one thing I didn't mention is that um, this was totally like written, recorded, and filmed in isolation. Um, so I like wrote lead sheets for my band and just like sent them and said, I hope this works. and sent vocal scores with only vocal lines to the singers and said, again, I hope this works. Everybody filmed in separate places. Like I hired a camera crew and we went to every person individually. And it like should not have like all lined up. And the whole time I was just kind of like crossing my fingers that like it was going to work in the way that I thought it would. And it did. So it worked out, but it was extremely scary. Yeah, there was a click track. Yeah. Yeah. It was an extremely nerve-wracking process. And one of the singers lives in Baltimore. So we drove to Baltimore, filmed him, and drove straight back. And it was an extremely long weekend of filming like all over the place, but it was fun. So yeah, thank you. Unless I don't know if people have other questions or thoughts.
We can take probably 2 more questions.
Okay. No headphones. How did the singers sync up? Oh, they were lip syncing to a recording that I put together. So yeah, we did the audio separately and then had them lip sync. There's a scene where I accidentally shifted somebody's part in like the audio recording they were lip syncing to. So we ended up like inserting like a bunch of title cards because it just like didn't make any sense whatsoever, and it was totally my fault. Like everybody else did everything right. So yeah, but I'm extremely impressed with like them as lip syncers. Oh, and also I should say this opera company um, currently has a call for proposals if people want to do stuff. Yeah, and it's free, and the application takes like 10 minutes. Yeah, and I'm working on a one-man show for that one singer right now. That I think is going to come out next summer, where he is going to play every character and change costumes on stage. But the idea right now is that it's a love story between a bomb maker and a baker, and they have like a shared love of yellow cake. But yeah, everybody should go work with. His name is Felix, and he's amazing. Yeah, cool. Thank you guys so much. This was really, really fun.
One more round of applause for Craig. Everybody stand up if you can. I'm just gonna stretch for a little bit, a half an hour. And we have Ayako next. And I think I just have you as a co-host. Feel free to start whenever you want. And take it over, Ayako.
All right, cool. I guess, is everybody stretched out? Are we good? Because I know sitting these long sessions, my body like hurts at the end of the day. But yeah, I feel ready to go. So my name is Ayako, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself and what I do. Let's see. Can we all see this PowerPoint? All right, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, so who am I? I don't know. I ask myself this every day. But today, I am a rising senior at the University of Georgia's Hugh Hodson School of Music. And so this is located in Athens, Georgia. It's like maybe an hour and a half or so outside of Atlanta. And then I'm majoring in music education and music composition. And so at UGA, I do like a lot of different things. And then something that's really important to me is that I work with this group called the Actionable Anti-Racism and Inclusion Committee at UGA. And so this is a fully student autonomous group. And so we basically create actionable efforts and initiatives to help listen, amplify, and facilitate anti-racist practices in our school of music culture. Because I think over the past like little bit or so, a lot of people have been realizing that there are some issues with the way that things are run in academia right now in music. And so we're just trying to combat some of these things by creating a more diverse and inclusive place at our school. And so we've built like a website with some resources. We've had conversations for people to come and just talk about how are they feeling, what issues do they have, what would they like to see for the School of Music. And then we also highlight student performances that are performing underrepresented works or underrepresented composers or stuff like that. And then we also create playlists of diverse music. And then, so we do a lot of different sort of things. And so this is something that I'm really, really passionate about. And so I just wanted to share it today in case anybody else is doing something like this at their school or is interested. to do something like this at your school or just like learn more about it, because I think it's really important that all of us start critically thinking about, because maybe we recognize there are issues, but what can we do to start solving them, and start thinking about how can we as students take action for the culture that we would like to see at our school. So yeah, that's something really important to me. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about that today, but just wanted to plug that in. And so about myself, my style I would describe for writing, I've only been writing for a little bit, actually just a couple of years or so in school, so I feel like sort of behind the game, but it's better late than never to do it. And so I write in a very sort of melodic style, and it's often singable because I just like to sing, like no real reason. I'll just be humming a lot, or if we're just in the car, I'll be just jamming out, so And then I like to tell a story in my music, so I like to be very adventurous, and then I often like for there to be a very sort of concrete plot line so that it's accessible for a lot of people, or hopefully accessible. And then my music often gets described as folky in the way that maybe things seem sort of simple, or I use certain collections of sounds or notes that sound very sort of like folk inspired. And so I live in Georgia, right? And so I listen to a lot of sort of like, I don't know, like, so not country music, but there's a lot of like strings and like bluegrass, folk music, stuff like that. And so I think that has really began to work its way into my music, but yeah, we'll see when we listen. I'm struggling with how to describe my style, but that's how it is at the moment. And so I find inspiration just sort of in living my life. And I know that sounds kind of dumb, but it's true because there's not much else that I can draw on from. And so a large part of my work covers issues about identity and often how confusing it can be. Because, I live in Georgia, I'm in like the South, like the South. And so it's kind of confusing because I'm a female, I am multiracial. And so it's sort of wondering, how do these things interplay into who I am and how I am perceived, and also other identities, being like in school or being whatever. So I kind of do a lot of work with identity. And then I also take inspiration from my communities because Athens has a very rich sort of musical tradition in a lot of different styles. And then, just various life experiences because I think everybody does that. And then something that really informs how I write my music is my connection with education. Because before like going into composing and stuff like that, I was mostly just a teacher first. This was more something I did on the side, like just to try it out for fun. And so for me, music is for everybody. And so I work with little kids a lot. And so I want my music to be, I guess, not for little kids, but I want everybody to enjoy it, whether you're like a little kid or you're somebody like us, like in higher education or whatever, or just the general population. So I really try to, just make it as accessible as possible. And then a lot of times in my music, there's often some sort of educational goal in there as well for the people who are learning it. And so let me check the chat real fast. Okay. Yay! Oh my gosh, I am also Native American a little bit, I guess. Yeah, I'm Japanese, my mom is from Japan, and then I am also white and then Native Alaskan. So it's kind of a cool mix, and so yeah, it's real fun. All right. Oh my gosh, yay! And so I'm going to present on a couple of works today. And so the first work I'm going to present on is a piece called Dear Diary. And so this was written for the Hudson Wind Ensemble and Clark County School District bands for this year at UGA, because we have a yearly composer residency. And so this year I got to work with them. And so the basic idea of this piece is just being a music student in a pandemic, because what else was there for us to think about at this time? And so some challenges that I had when doing this is, at the time we were thinking of doing a virtual sort of realization of the piece. So thinking about how can I get like a large group to coordinate all like that. And so we didn't end up doing it because it became too complicated. But it's something to think about, something I'm sure we've all thought about recently. And so for this piece, I used a flex score. And so it's not in the traditional sort of like flute, oboe, clarinet, whatever sort of thing. So I designed it as high winds, low winds, high brass, low brass, and then all of the percussion. And so we'll take a look at that. Let me get into the score. And so something else that sort of ties into the education that I was just talking about is that for this piece, this has to be suitable for like young high schoolers, but then also for people who are about to graduate with their doctorate in music performance. So this is a really large range of like styles and maturities and tastes to sort of accommodate to. And so that was something that I really wanted to try and make sure was sort of accessible again to everybody. So I tried to make it not like too difficult, but also challenging, and also challenging in other ways. And so a couple things that I did this sort of for this educational aspect is I included a lot of improvisation in this piece. And so a lot of people, or I guess not people, in general, there is not much improv in our current concert hall, especially outside of like jazz, like non-jazz improv does not happen much. I don't ever really see it. And so, I kind of wonder, why is this the case? And of course, it's because a lot of us are not trained in it, but I'd like to be trained in it. And so I haven't done much of that either. So I wanted to include this here. And then I also experimented with a graphic sort of. It's still lined up in a way that I think is readable for if you're reading a graphic score for the first time. Because I also believe that, we're in the 21st century, and so we need to be able to read and perform and learn from 21st century scores. And, so I haven't had a lot of experience with this personally. And so whenever I have had to read a graphic score, it's very difficult, to say the least. And so I just want to put some practice for that as well. And so these are some of the graphic notations that I used in this piece. We have just various types of improvisation, more guided, more free. And then you're going to see some graph clips in the score. And so this comes from graphs of COVID cases throughout the years. And so I would just pick a spot and then just crop it and then throw it in. And then there will also be word text boxes in the scores. And so these are snippets from news headlines throughout the year, spanning from like March to December. And so at least for me, throughout the year, I would stop reading things less and less and stop critically thinking about it and just look at it and be like, okay, great, let's move on to something else. And so what happens when you only read a snippet of something, when something only comes at you at one angle, is something that I wanted to explore, and what happens when you take words out of context. And so this is just an example of some of the graphic scores. And so it's still laid out in a way that follows our traditional like staff notation. So it's not like super nuts if you're reading this for the first time, but still sort of a little bit different from what we usually see. And so this was pretty difficult to put together. It happened sort of like towards the very end of the semester because we had no idea how we were going to do it. And so we ended up having a reading session outside with everybody. And so here's a couple of pictures of what that looks like. We had this giant tent out in our parking lot for rehearsals and concerts and stuff like that. And so this is a picture of everybody there. And so in this recording, everybody is 1-2 apart because, there's only so many people who can come at one time. And then we're recording outside. So outside noises happen and occur. On this day, it was a little bit windy, so there's a little bit of wind effects in there, but just ignore it. It's part of the fun of this all. And so, yeah, there's a whole bunch of people helping me out. And so in this recording, there'll actually be some speaking as well. And so a lot of the speaking comes from TAs and professors and stuff, and just people who were there. And so, yeah, let me see. Okay, now I have to go share the audio. Let's see. I need to turn on my original sound, right? I want to make sure I do this beforehand. Okay. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I want to pull up this. Let's do share sound. Okay, I really hope this works. Please let me know if this doesn't work. Oop, wrong one. All right. Hear it? No. Yeah, oh my god, why is the next still playing? Sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and so this was a super fun piece to work on, and it was sort of like a big challenge. And so I was scrolling through the comments. I hope the volume was okay. It's a little bit quiet on my end too, so sorry if it was just too quiet. But yeah, let's see. Thank you, everybody. This is so nice. The improvs, yeah, that's a really good question. So they had been working on improv a little bit throughout the semester, so I think that they were sort of getting the hang of it, but I was just there and I was like, just do it. And then they just did. So I was lucky in that sense. Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting. Something I appreciate about this, what we just heard, is that it felt so original. Like I really appreciate the that you were trying so many different styles and integrations, and I love the concept behind the piece. Um, and I definitely would love to see kind of like something more in this direction and as music that kind of because it felt like a very fresh voice is what I'm trying to say. And so Zachary in the comments said that you got some very so a lot of Ives vibes, and I actually was going to ask the exact same thing if you listen to a lot of Charles Ives, because just with all the different style shifts and various integrations of the different styles.
Okay, so to be honest, the only time I really really listened to Ives is when I was in music theory. So maybe like once or twice outside of that, but no, not really actually. So that's kind of funny, but I guess I'll have to go check him out now. But yeah, so not much, but I know.
No,
I feel
I
like
was just curious. Yeah.
yeah, no.
It also felt very. I heard a lot of movie music themes and all, and the wide span of. I feel like the piece is original in the sum of its parts. You know, like just the amount of different genres that you used.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And so yeah, let's see. I guess if there's no other questions or comments, we'll go on to the next piece. It's very different from what we just heard. Here we go. So this next piece is a voice piece, and so I don't consider myself like an art song composer or like a choir music composer. So this was a little bit different from what I usually do, but I really like how it turned out. This was for somebody's recital, and so I chose this text because I just really liked how different all the different stanzas are and what moods they bring out. And so yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. Let's just listen to it. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Where is it? Here we go. Okay, here's the score back. All right, now I have to turn it on. I hope the audio is okay. Let me know if it's not. Here we go. Oh, it's not okay. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I haven't used Zoom in such a long time that I've forgotten like how to operate it. Okay. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Nope, wrong one.
I went out at night alone. The young blood flowing beyond the sea seemed to have drenched my spirit's wings. I bore my sorrow heavily. But when I lifted up my head from shadow shaken on the snow, I saw Orion in the east burn steadily as long ago. Steadily as long ago. From windows in my mother's house, dreaming my dreams on winter nights, I watched Orion
and so that was Winter Stars. I really like that one. And yeah, I guess, let me see. Let me go back to my PowerPoint because I have one more thing to share. Oh, thank you, everybody. You guys are so nice. So yeah, that's basically a bit about me. And so now is the time if you would like to, you always got to do that sort of self promo thingy. So, oh yeah, these are my dogs. Yeah, this one is Yoshi and this one is Willow. And then they're both very tiny, so they're both very annoying because, little dogs are the worst, but they're really cute, so it's okay. So yeah, go check out my Facebook, follow me on Instagram, or just like Zoom me or whatever. I'm really excited to talk to everybody, so yeah, I'm glad you guys like the dogs and the music. So yeah, I guess any final thoughts, questions? Because we are probably at just about time. Yeah, Kira.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the last piece you showed. Just first, I wanted to say it was so beautiful. You have a really great ear for melody. I really love it. So thank you for sharing. But I just had a quick notation question. If I remember correctly from looking at the score, if I was paying attention correctly, you syllabic beaming, and I was just wondering if that was like a preference of your vocalist or how you always do it or what?
Yeah, do you mean sort of like here where they're like connected and then like not connected?
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that part, but too. I was speaking about like in measure 40 where it's like
Oh, okay.
syllable, but that too actually now that I see it.
Yeah, so okay, this one actually may be a mistake. I don't know about that, but we'll see. But yeah, this was actually something that the vocalist had requested because I sent a copy of the score over, and then they were like, "Why is it like that?" And I was like, "Is that a problem?" And then they were like, "Make it, if you want like very specific accents, just separate them." And I was like, "Okay." So yeah.
Okay, interesting. Thanks.
To that point, of course, the tradition in vocal notation, both for choral and opera and art song in the 18th and 19th centuries was that. Every syllable gets a different stem and beam, or not beam together. But if you look at vocal music from the past 40 years, even 50 years, I would say, and especially if you look at the past 25 years, it's probably 98% doesn't use that. And I've talked to a lot of singers and choral conductors, and they say, yeah, don't use the old-fashioned way. It's more confusing to the eye. So on moments like that one measure where you have accents on every note, having a separate flag, I think that's fine. It kind of helps actually, but in most of the other, just beam it just like you would for a violin or something, and of course use slurs if there's melismas or whatever. But yeah, that tradition has completely changed. Like singers, conductors, nobody wants to sing. Nobody wants to see separate flags for every syllable anymore.
Yeah, it does look a little bit weird to look at. So I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but yeah, yeah, good to know. Thank you. Yeah, so I don't know why they requested it, but just did. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
One more round of applause for Ayako. And everybody stand if you can, if you want. We're gonna do this again. Inhale. Exhale. Woo! All right. Next we have Devin. Yeah, you're here. Yeah, I just have you as a co-host. Devin, take it over.
Okay, it's great to be here. As you may see, I'm in a cafe in Brooklyn right now. I had some. Is there some bad background noise, or can you guys hear me fairly well? So I didn't know that my apartment would have cables redone this week, and it's supposed to be done by now. But I've been kind of running around trying to get to Wi-Fi here and there to log in. But it's been kind of difficult. So let me know if sound becomes an issue, and we'll try to work something out. Yeah, so with this, I think the plan is to just kind of talk a little bit about myself and then share some music and then open it up for questions. So just about me, I'm from New York. I just finished a master's at University of Kansas City, Missouri. And I am back in New York now. I'm in Brooklyn. And pretty much I started with music, playing the viola, got into composition later on, became more into composition. I've worked in kind of in music production in New York for a while, like kind of concert production. I worked at Carnegie Hall for a second. I did some audio and video work for kind of classical concerts and done a lot of recital videos. Kind of, as a upcoming composer, you really have to figure out your money. It's just the reality of it. You have to keep one eye on the financial side. So try to do that. But I'm really, for me, that kind of stuff is just to be able to support writing all the time. So, all right, the first piece I'm going to share, it's a piece I wrote at the end of 2020. It's called Chasing Memory. I had the privilege of writing for Hub New Music Ensemble. And so that's kind of a Perot minus the piano instrumentation. So it's flute, clarinet, violin, and cello. So this piece is kind of, maybe I'll just read the program notes quickly. They're pretty brief. So here's the program note. The passage of time brings change to memory in different ways. Sometimes memories are transformed drastically by new experiences, and sometimes they are slowly eroded over time. For easy storage, they can become simplistic paradigms withheld in a haze of forgotten intricacies and nostalgia, or they can become inflated and bloated with significance they never in reality held. This work explores the plasticity of looking into the past as memory mutates, telling a different story with each passing year. So generally, musically, what that means in this piece is there are themes and melodies that kind of get warped over time and they take on a new musical, emotional, mental significance as the piece goes on. So it's kind of some transformative variation type stuff going on. But just a caveat is I compose music that's, at the end of the day, I want somebody to be able to listen to it. They don't have to understand a concept or the program notes. I think this is how I work. It's at the end of the day, I see it as a completely audio product at the end. I don't like to use the word product, but completely for listening, but you can. So yeah, let's try a screen share and let me know about background noise. How is that? Is it, do you hear the background?
Sharing sound, you should be able to mute your mic while you're sharing computer sound.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. That's great. So I'm going to do that. Let's bring up the score. Too many windows. Okay. Sorry, it's like the last time I was on Zoom was a couple months ago, but I feel like I've forgotten it all. Trying to mute myself, but can't really figure it out. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Trying to find out if there's anything in the chat, questions and fingernail pizza. Oh man. Thank you, everybody. I can take some questions now, maybe, if you have any. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm quite familiar with Hub New Music. I know like two of the members. I've been trying to get them to come to Indiana University, where I go to school. But I was just wondering, like, what was it like working with them? I mean, they clearly know their stuff when it comes to like new music and performing a wide diversity of repertoire.
Yeah. Well, that's.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, and obviously this is 2020, so it's a virtual thing. We did it. Basically, we handed them some scores from UMKC and a small group of composers there, and they worked on it. We did like a Zoom rehearsal. It was a quick thing, but they came having already rehearsed it themselves, like totally professional about it, and at that point they pretty much had it, and you were giving them little directions as much as you could over Zoom, and then they went and they did a video recording of it. So I don't think there was as much of a collaborative process in this as there could have been, but that is probably due to Zoom, I think, and things being remote. But they're absolute professionals, and it was great because they also offered everybody a lot of feedback. As far as notation goes, what they like to see, which is, it's really great to hear that just from the performers, especially. But then it gets complicated because different performers like different things. So yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Devin, I have a couple of questions and comments.
Yeah.
Wonderful piece. It's so clear that you're a string player, because the string writing is so idiomatic. I mean, there's nothing super virtuosic here, but it's just like, it just works so well. And one thing that I love is that your the back and forth between the pits and the arco, and it just seemed like always the perfect time just to change the technique here or there.
Thank you.
One comment is that I did wonder about the C pedal, which is basically from measure 1 to measure 168. I was wondering if you considered maybe in one of these spots where you sort of change the character, it could have been nice to also change the pedal point. So it wasn't always the C. Back to it, it would be like, oh, that again, instead of like time.
Yeah, sure.
Looking at your rhythm, the rhythm, and specifically meter, you've got changing meters all over the place, and yet, when you're in 3/4 or 4/4, 6/8 or whatever, you're not really in 3/4, 4/4, 6/8. So my question was, my music often looks like that too, and that's because I compose 95% of the time without meter. I just have marks. And then I go and assign the meter later. So how were you dealing with that? Were you writing in a meter, or was that sort of like you're writing music and then you're thinking like, okay, how can I, what meter should I put this in to make it user friendly?
Yeah, I think it's more what you said that you do. I don't write the whole thing in like say 4/4 and then go back, but I'm writing it, and I'm writing things in 4/4, and as I go along, realizing there's
this doesn't work.
Determining like phrasing or the way it's written out for the players, it has to be adapted, or else it will look crazy on the page.
Yeah. Well, I think it works really well because if you close your eyes and don't follow the score, you feel most of the time it's connected to the notes, but you never feel like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 1. It's almost removed from meter entirely, and I find that to be really appealing and successful. So for that. Do you write into the computer or do you write by hand?
I stick to handwriting as much as possible.
I knew it. Hello, everyone. I knew it. You listen to this music and you realize it just sounds like music that's not written into finale or sibelius. And I know that 99% of composers under the age of, well, 30 even, but most student composers, they write entirely directly into Sibelius or Finale, and it shows. I mean, there's a real huge benefit for writing by hand. And one of the things is the liberation from the tyranny of the downbeat. If you write Finale or Sibelius, it gives you a meter, and most people are like, okay, I'll just follow what you're telling me, program, instead of listening in your inner ear.
Yeah, I think it
Really
can
fantastic.
become this.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think working with the software, like in the early part of the process, can be a little damaging because relying on the playback becomes bad because the playback is really a one-dimensional thing. It's very thin, sort of. So it becomes this feedback loop that what you start out with becomes what you're composing to. But since you're listening to this thin playback, it affects what you write further down along the line in the piece. So try to avoid that. But thank you for all the kind words. And somebody asked what I was working on now. Right now I'm working on an orchestral piece, I think. Yeah, I think it's worthwhile to use playback towards like the end of the process, but I always try to answer to Phil. Yeah, I always try to listen to the playback at the end. It's a great way to like note check and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think I have like 15 more minutes or so. I can show another piece. This one won't be live. It's a MIDI realization, unfortunately. It's probably my most recent piece. I just finished it. 10 more minutes. Okay, so we won't listen to the whole piece. This one coming up. It's about 11 minutes long, but we'll listen to like a 4-minute snippet or something like that. It's an orchestra piece for about double winds, 3 percussion. It's inspired by a trip I took, a backpacking trip throughout the Sierra Nevada mountain range, and we went for about 7 days carrying backpacks, kind of living off the grid with a couple close friends, and we ended up climbing Mount Whitney, which is about 15,000 feet tall, and we did it overnight. So we got up there for sunrise, and it's kind of this huge climactic moment. But during the whole 7 days, it's this kind of pervasive. You see the mountains in the distance; they're always there, kind of looking at you. And this piece was kind of inspired by that. It's called Mountains in the Distance. So it's I have to turn off the chat because I keep on getting distracted by others. Oh no. All right. Yeah, so let me bring that up quickly because time is running out. I'm going to mute myself again. Yeah, and just give me a thumbs up when you Okay, so it kind of fades out there. I'm gonna stop it just because I think we're running a little short on time. It sort of hurts me to just sort of cut in at 5 minutes because um, thank you. It hurts me to sort of cut in at 5 minutes because this is very much like a very long build up to a piece. So I'm showing like a very developmental section and a climax and then a fadeaway. But all these kind of themes that are going on, when you just hear them in this development and climax, you don't see what they originally appeared as. So you lose that element of kind of the journey of it, which is what this piece is kind of about. So, but yeah, I think it's a section I'm proud of writing and I'm happy. Thanks for listening. Do we have any questions? How long is the whole piece? 11 minutes. Okay. I don't think we have any questions. I don't hear anybody.
All right, if nobody else have questions, bravo, Devin. One more round of applause. It's great.
Thank you.
We're gonna move along. I think Mateo is next. Yeah, Mateo, take it over.
Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute there for a second. Is it sharing screen? Okay, cool. So hello, my name is Jaze Mateo Wharton. I go by Mateo. It's my middle name, but Jaze sticks out when you send in a piece to a competition, so I keep that on there. This is just like a little kind of artistic autobiography with like examples and stuff. This first thing I'll play while I introduce myself is something I composed when I was like 14 or 13, and I really wanted to be like a dubstep producer. And you know, I've evolved from I've evolved from that to where I am today. I'll show you later in the piece, but I think it's really not only instructive but funny to have the contrast between this and some of my later works. Can you hear the music in the background? So I'll make sure. Oh no. Oh, that's a shame. Wow, that could be troublesome for later in the PowerPoint. Well, it was bad dubstep. That was the whole gag, is it was playing.
You might have to share your, like, whatever PowerPoint program you're using. You might have to share it to like the Zoom audio device, because I see that you're sharing computer sound, so that might be it. I don't know.
Okay, let me try that. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, well, for the later stuff, there's YouTube links. So I guess if it doesn't work, then I can just drop the links, but hopefully that resolves itself. Okay, so just a bit about myself, some intro information. I go to UCSB, where I'm a music and philosophy double major. I was born I'm based out of Southern California. I'm from Sacramento. I was born in the South. I was born in Texas. My brother was born in Arkansas. I moved around a bit, and some of my teachers, and I agree, have said that my music exhibits adventurous forms, rhythmic variety, complex rhythms, and unabashed angularity. That's a lot of the stuff I work pretty hard to include and maintain in my work. And just a little bit of, I think, so a little interesting to see, like, I didn't come till, sorry, I'm trying to get my dog. I didn't come to classical / contemporary classical till rather late in my musical development. For a long time, I wanted to be like an indie rocker, slash like DJ, and then that eventually evolved into wanting to be like a new music composer. I still want to be an indie rocker though. That'd be awesome. And there are slides for all this stuff, but just kind of like mapping out my interests. It's kind of messy here, but so is, you know, life and thought processes. It's a lot of different like things that influence and go into my work. And just, this is like roughly showing how they're all connected, but it's more just generally showing that everything's connected to a degree. So singer-songwriting, I'm not going to be talking about this a whole lot, so I thought I'd just say it up front. But ever since I had an instrument that I could like kind of write songs to, I've been trying to write songs since I was 14. And the singer-songwriter stuff, it really influences a lot of where I come from as a composer. A lot of like forms, a lot of the ideas I have around music, especially considering like how the audience should be involved and how it should be enjoyed, which kind of runs classical or runs counter to a lot of conceptions of how music should be enjoyed in a classical arena. Here's just a little example. It's kind of an old song, but it's fun, and I really hope this plays.
I forgot prettier words than you could ever think. I've kissed prettier faces than you could bear to see. I've seen my soul at the mountain peaks of perception. Had my hands wrapped around the neck of perfection. So why am here tonight? Why do you have to kill the sky? Crowds, the likes of which you'll never see. I've had a string of lovers wait in line for me. I've had any attention that I've ever wanted. I am the thing that haunts, never the haunted.
That's just fun. Again, so that's just fun. I don't usually get to talk about it, and it really it does inform a lot of my musical sensibilities. So I think it's somewhat important to cover. Okay, and that kind. I don't think this is where the slide's supposed to go, but this it kind of like leads into this idea of a modern conception of Gesamtkunstwerk, the Wagnerian term, and some of my earliest musical influences, as controversial as they may be nowadays, were Kanye West and Tyler, the Creator, people that like really looked at all aspects of like their music process, from the writing, the composing, for the producing, to the album layout, to the graphic design, and that kind of like all around like approach to music is kind of what I still strive for today. I really I don't know. A clinician might call it a control problem, but it's really like an art, just a really like holistic artistic sensibility that I strive for that kind of influences a lot of my work that you'll see throughout this presentation. And also through that example and some of the later examples you see, something that's really important to my practice is like genre mixing. A lot of my music isn't jazz at all, but it's very jazz influenced with the upper tertian harmonies, chordal harmonies, and like sonorities that I use. And obviously I enjoy some rock music from that, what you just saw, although that was a little folkier than perhaps the rest of my repertoire. Then obviously composing in somewhere of the classical arena and engaging in some pop sensibilities as well. And that all is kind of the ingredient list to my artistic process, I suppose. Another super important ingredient, I suppose, is politics. I tend to be very political in my music, especially poking at the hypocrisies and contradictions of life in America with the realities that we live in versus the ideals that people that are in charge lay out. And I especially get inspiration from looking at things from the view of point of like material conditions, looking at the realities of like individuals and drawing inspiration from like individual stories. And I have examples of that later to illustrate what I mean. But here, this was like a couple of years ago, my first stab at a political piece. And this is the like artwork for that piece. And it's just like vaguely anti-war, which is not a super brave stance. But then nowadays I'm engaging. This is the cover for the quick write piece for this festival, actually, and it has to do with American foreign policy, trying to police the world while our own house is on fire. And then Late Stage Love Songs is another like a collection of art songs that I'm working on that have to do with life in the 21st century and late stage capitalism. And there's songs called like warcrime.png, learning to love the cloud, something like that. And that kind of like political modern commentary stuff is like a lot of what inspires me to write, and a lot of what finds itself in like the both the musical and extra musical content of my pieces. Another thing that I really enjoy is maximalism, big waves and walls of sound, kind of influenced from my rock background, and like another controversial artist, Phil Spector kind of thing. And then just working with lots of material at a time, and trying to like not just like throw the material away, but be willing to like establish an idea and move to a new one really quickly in a sort of almost jarring way, I think is a really interesting effect a lot of the time. I really enjoy dealing with thick textures, which I guess really is the first bullet point. And then here's the artwork for this piece, this Apple Tastes Like Pear, which is up on my SoundCloud, which I can link later. The MIDI rendering, but you know, you get the idea. Another ingredient is that kind of relates to the total art thing I was mentioning earlier, is visuals. I'm super into the visuals of my pieces, and I've on the right here, you can see it's kind of one of the first of a series of my ventures into graphic scoring. But yeah, ever since I pirated Photoshop when I was 14, don't worry, I pay for it now, technically. I have been really interested in controlling the visual aspect of my art, especially since so much of the like data we process when we engage with something is visual. Here's just a couple more examples that I did this year of graphic scores. This piece on the left was really inspired by a piece called Form the Fabric by New York composer Inti Figes-Vizueta. She's incredible. I love her work. But the kind of cell notation on like a plane type thing is something I'm really interested in. Like with, you know, dynamics and like busyness being X and Y axes and all that. And then this one on the right is kind of a little bit less formed because it was for my friend and he knew what he was doing. But it's another cell notation type thing that really relies on the background of the player and the psychology that they come to music with, and it lets them integrate their own their own like musical practices, like runs / riffs in your favorite key, some licks from something you've been working on. It really reacts back at the player, and really can change depending on whether I hand it to my rock guitarist buddy or my classical violinist buddy, you know, seeing like how wildly those two renditions can like differ while still technically being my piece, I think is crazy and awesome. And then, yeah, here's a piece that I wanted to look at, and it fits in with the visual theme because I did the video for this too. I haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to dive into the audio video world, but I'm super into it, and I definitely want to delve into it a little deeper as time goes on. But here's this piece. It's a solo flute piece for my friend Jordana. Oh no. Cool. So that's that one. Thank you. It was a lot of fun to put together. Most of my music education has been during COVID, actually. So that's why a lot of these examples either don't have recordings or are solo stuff like that, but she just sent me the video. I'm also really interested in cool instrumentation, just roughly, but I think this stems from my beginnings as like trying to be an EDM or a rock type person. Is like, you know, in that you can get any synth you want and you get a search for cool timbres. So like combining those things, kind of like sometimes like an organ on like solo lines, adding different instruments and kind of seeing how the harmonics stack up, but also just like having a weird band. It's interesting to hear, like, for example, theremin with string quartet over here. This one's not that weird, but it was the first mixed ensemble piece I did in my music education, so I figured I'd include it for posterity's sake. But yeah, that kind of like mixed ensemble thing, it also gets away from the kind of more classically repertoire, gets you into the newer stuff, which is more where I'm based, and that's kind of the lineage that I'm calling upon more so, I would say. So just quickly where I'm at today, you know, Charlotte New Music Festival. I wrote this piece, Phoenix Loose in the Bank, for bent frequency, and it kind of has a little bit of all the elements that I covered today. It's political in that it imagines a post-debt world, kind of a post-money world. Has a multi-genre influence in a lot of ways. Highly sectional in the way that I kind of talked about, but abrupt but not without development. Sorry, it's kind of early in California. And then mixed ensemble as well. And I'll play, I don't think I have time for the whole thing. And this is a rehearsal recording. If you want to hear the whole polished thing, got to tune into the bent frequency concert. But I'll play a couple snippets from this so you can kind of hear what I'm talking about. So here's the beginning. Sorry, it's really loud. The recording is from the like little Zoom recorder, not the professional mics. And then skipping ahead. So at that point, the bank is burning down. The Phoenix is burning down the bank. Yeah, the Phoenix is loose in the bank in the title. And then let's go to the aftermath, the kind of ashes, I suppose. Right around, sorry. Yeah, and then if you want to hear the rest, tune into that concert, the Ben Frequency concert. I'm blanking on when it is, but maybe someone could put it in the chat for me. And just what's happening next for me, some stuff. If you want to contact me, jaze@ucsb.edu, and then less formally at Jaze Mateo. And just a couple previews into what's happening next for me, collaboration with the Sacramento Women's Choir, Vox Musica, super talented ensemble from my hometown, and writing that piece with guitar, like symphony sized thing that I showed a screenshot earlier, is for this ensemble, the Ensemble for Contemporary Music, led by Dr. Sarah Gibson at UCSB. Hopefully new singer-songwriter stuff soon, but I just want to talk for a second about this Vox Musica thing because I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a 12-part women's choir piece called No Scavenging Allowed. It's dealing with homelessness and houselessness in the Sacramento area and how every aspect of a houseless person's existence is criminalized. Even, looking for recycling to get a couple dollars to live, that's illegal. You get a fine for that, which is silly because how are they going to pay? It's just silly. Everything about like how America deals with homelessness is silly. And in this piece, I'm dealing with text from local penal code and interviews the local houseless population, and that should be coming out next spring. So if you want to hear some of that, stay tuned with some of the links from before, jazemuseum.com. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for listening. And yeah, I didn't check the chat at all, so if there's any questions, I can answer them now.
We can probably take one really quick question. Anybody? If not, there's a concert starting in like 3 minutes, I think, by Phoenix Down. Everybody check out the concert. Ooh, it's a lot of Zoom screen time for me. And also there's a post-concert hand afterwards. And bravos and bravas to everybody who presented today. And I'll see you all very soon.